Once again, it's time to get ahead of the crowd and beat the breakout by finding out who the next big waiver wire pickups will be before everybody else does. It's not often we're going to start with a tight end, but let's do that because we got a young player who might be making a name for himself finally, and this is the right time to look at Trey McBride in Arizona. Now, if you remember, last year it wasn't a great rookie tight end class, but pretty much the consensus number one tight end coming out was Trey McBride. He was not a generational prospect like Kyle Pitts was before him. This year's tight end class was loaded with guys, and some of them are making an instant impact. Sam Laporta being an obvious one, Luke Musgrave, Michael Mayer coming on. McBride was kind of the only guy of interest last year. He was the first tight end selected, went in the second round. Cardinals didn't really use him a lot early. That's not surprising for a rookie tight end. He did come on late and had a nice game. And then this year, it just kind of faded. Zach Ertz was back, just wasn't that involved. And of course, Arizona's offense just really not that high scoring. But then all of a sudden, in week 6, we saw McBride get the same number of targets as Zach Ertz with 5, but he caught 4 of them and went for 62 yards, while Zach Ertz only caught 2. One of the targets that went his way went for an interception. Also worth noting that for the first time, McBride definitely outsnapped Ertz. He was on the field for 9 more offensive plays. Maybe this is the start of a takeover, or at least him being out on the field a little bit more than Ertz. It takes time for tight ends for it to really click. McBride just wasn't that good as a rookie, but again, rookie tight end, not a great situation in Arizona. But now it's all looking better because not only is he being more involved, but we just found out Kyler Murray could be coming back really soon. Not going to happen this week, may not happen next week. But look, if we have him back in like week 10, let's say, McBride definitely is going to be a guy that's interesting. Like, tight end is just rough out there. You need some upside. There's not a lot of depth here at receiver. McBride is definitely a guy at tight end you should be interested in. So while I don't usually advocate stashing a tight end, again, if you got Michael Mayer a couple of weeks ago, and I did talk about him on this very segment, then you're happy. McBride might also make you happy. Now, you're going to hear a lot of rumors about trades, potential trades. A lot of it just doesn't happen. It's the NFL. It's not like Major League Baseball where superstars get dealt and teams will make massive changes to their roster before the playoffs. In NFL, it just doesn't happen. Rarely we see a superstar traded, and even then, a lot of the guys who you think could make sense, it just doesn't happen. But maybe Jerry Jeudy does get moved, because even though Steve Smith Sr. just completely annihilated him on national television and did his best to kill his trade value, there's probably a team out there that might be interested in Jeudy. He's been talked about, and the rumor mill since before the season started. The Broncos clearly not going to be a contender this year. It could clear the way for other receivers in Denver. And you're thinking Marvin Mims. Yeah, great candidate, but a lot of people already on Marvin Mims. It's pretty obvious he's going to stand to benefit if this happens. Let's look a little bit deeper at a guy who could be relevant, like Brandon Johnson. Johnson's actually made a little noise already. He's got 3 touchdowns this season, which is 3 more than Jerry Jeudy. Although he's not heavily targeted, he's been a big play threat, averaging 15.3 yards per reception. I mean, this is an offense you don't necessarily want to look for a piece of, but again, targets are targets. He could see his target share go up. He's being used as kind of a downfield threat and a red zone threat. That's the kind of target that you want. That's what you're looking for here when you're talking about upside for a stash play, a guy who could come up with a big play or a score. This really is all about opportunity, because nothing in Johnson's measurables stands out to think that he's a guy you should be interested in. I mean, his athletic measurables are just not good. He doesn't have a lot of speed, a lot of reach, a lot of anything here. This guy was undrafted, came from UCF, not a power school. And he's 25 years old. He's not a rookie, but, for a guy who's only been in the league 2 years, he's not young either. But you know what? Sean Payton don't care. If anything, I bet you he reminds Payton a lot of a guy who was a really prolific pass catcher for the Saints a long time ago, Marcus Colston. Let me stop you right there before you think I'm comparing him, saying he's going to be the next Marcus Colston. He's not, probably. But I'm going to say that I think he does get a look, especially if Jeudy is gone. Then I would say Brandon Johnson might be the type of flyer that you like to have on your bench. And then let's go to a very different type of receiver. And looking at the Raiders, another guy who might fill in for a player who could be traded, and Hunter Renfrow, I'm going to look at Trey Tucker. Now, Trey Tucker is not a big, slow receiver. He's a small, fast one. He's 5'9", runs a 4.40. Very different from Brandon Johnson. He actually reminds me a little more of a guy I talked about a few weeks ago in Darius Davis for the Chargers. Davis hasn't quite gotten going, but look, Quentin Johnson still looks that bad. They might actually have to go back to Davis. So while Hunter Renfrow is on the trading block, it really doesn't matter, does it? Because right now, Hunter Renfrow is not even getting targeted. He's not involved. This whole offense, I've been saying, it was basically Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers. No one else was getting targets. Finally, the tight end, Michael Mayer, has gotten involved, but also this past week, week 6, we did see Tucker catch 2 passes for 57 yards and get a rushing attempt. That's not going to blow you away, but again, you're not looking for the quantity here. You're not going to get it. He's not a guy who's going to be heavily targeted, but again, looking for that home run potential, those big splash plays. He's fast. He can get some separation, and he'll probably be wide open when he does run a go route because teams are worried about Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers. Big play potential, it's what you're looking for. A guy who now should see his target share increase a little bit, definitely his snap share. So look, this team is going to kind of pivot a little bit. We've seen now they're involving the rookie tight end. They're now going to involve this rookie receiver. They've got to do something. If they're comfortable doing this, then you could see Tucker as a guy who makes some big plays here and there. If you watched any of that game last week, then you probably heard Tony Romo talk about him a little too much. It seems to like him, think he's going to get involved. Good enough for me. Now, this player we know has the talent, and we know had a huge career in Tennessee. That's why he won the Biletnikoff Award. Jalen Hyatt went to the New York Giants. Look, some people thought he was drafted too late. Some people thought maybe he was drafted a little too early. I think we all agree he was drafted in the wrong situation because it's the New York Giants, and that has proven to be true. But at least we can say now he's trending upward. Last week, he saw his highest yet target share. It was 4 targets. Like, that's not that good, but for him, it's a step forward. Last week saw his season high of 4 targets and 3 receptions. That's not making you fall out of your chair, but still, we're trending the right way. It's progress, and we should see it continue because, again, this is a rookie getting acclimated to the system. What is more significant is the guys who aren't getting targets or snaps anymore. We know this was a mess of a receiver room. They had like 7 different guys, half of them who play the slot. Well, Jamison Crowder was cut. Sterling Shepard trying to make the comeback. It's just not happening, or at least Brian Daboll is not having it. He was only on the field for 1 snap last week. And you remember Paris Campbell, that trendy sleeper? He didn't even see the field last week. It looks like he's just out of this rotation altogether. And then Isaiah Hodgins, the guy who was probably the most direct threat to Hyatt, he was only on the field for 23% of the snaps last week. Jalen Hyatt, on the other hand, was on the field second most among Giants wide receivers behind only Darius Slayton. He was on the field 73% of the time. Now, he's never going to get a high target share because it's the Giants. They're just not a good team, first of all, and just not a great passing offense. And Hyatt's not that kind of guy who's going to really ever be a target hog, I don't think. Even if he was on a different team, he's a guy who's a field stretcher. That's his deal. So if he can get those targets, again, looking for a big play, a home run here, he could do that. We know he has that ability. I think they're going to start utilizing him more because they need something like this in the offense. While I'm not going to ever feel great starting any Giants receiver, I do feel like he might even be a deep, sneaky start this week against the Washington Commanders, who give up a ton of yards to the passing game. And there's not very often we're going to have a quarterback to talk about, but we finally do. A rookie quarterback who could be making his debut after the bye in Tennessee, and that's Will Levis. You know the deal, Ryan Tannehill on crutches after the game. Doesn't look like he's going to be ready to play anytime soon. So Malik Willis came up for mop-up duty, and he wasn't that bad, but you know what? It looks like Mike Vrabel just doesn't want to even give him a shot. Sounds like Levis is going to be the starter in week 8. This makes sense. I mean, they've kind of already seen what they have in Willis. If they thought he was ready, then they probably wouldn't have drafted a quarterback with a second pick of the second round. Now, Levis is not a guy who's a dual threat quarterback. This is not a dynamic offense where you can say, well, he's going to sling it and he's got all these options at receiver. I mean, this is reality, right? It's a Tennessee offense. It's basically just run first, run second, pass if you have to. But first of all, Levis is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's a lot of names toward the end of the QB list that are not more appealing here. So maybe give the rookie a shot, see if he can do something. He at least has DeAndre Hopkins to throw to still. And this pick does get more interesting if, and I'm not buying into this, but if the rumors are true, if Derrick Henry does get traded, because this team has decided now with everything going on, maybe they are ready to blow it up and rebuild, or maybe they're just ready to move on from their running back and just see what they have in Tyjae Spears, see what they have in this rookie quarterback. Maybe they do go a little more pass heavy, and maybe that favors a guy like Levis. I'm only looking in a super flex league at a pick like this, or 2 quarterback league. If there's ever a time to take a speculative stash for a quarterback, this would be it. Make sure you're always proactive, get ahead of the competition, find these guys before your league mates do. We always have you covered, and of course, the best start, sit, advice, and everything you need to win is right here. So check out our Week 7 playlist before the games start.